And that means that you've got to come out of this canyon a little higher, like not next to the creek. You've got to start leaving the creek at a lower grade. So you can avoid having to swing way out around this thing. There's basically a little hump here. So, and you know, we've all seen these photos. It's possible to analyze the landscape and understand pretty precisely where those are. You could drive down in here on this road and compare and look. Wow, that's taking forever. There we go. There's a feeder flume coming in. This is a little less well understood by me. I need to go back and look at this area. But that rock, I think, is pretty distinctive, and it's on the other side, the not road side. So it probably didn't get blasted or graded, so we could probably, but this is my current guess. The lumberyard. It's an important area, not well known, hard to figure out. There's a lot of mythology about this thing. Let's look at two sources that Wendell gave me. One is in here. This is an assessor map. It's very important because it shows the township and range lines from the public land survey system, and their locations are understood well. So this can be located with a lot of precision. And then I'm going to fade away my stuff. We'll see what this tells us about the lumberyard. It seems to be telling us, it seems to not be showing us the flume, but it seems to be showing us 4 tracks, 3 longer ones, and one significant bend, and then also a couple other things that take away the branch, comes down here, and then for reasons I can't understand, it seems to do this odd sketch right there. You have to wonder if there was more that was taken out or something. Anyway, it shows that arrangement. And so the question is, how can we refine that understanding a little bit? And luckily, we have, luckily Nevada Highway Department came to our aid. We have an aerial image here. I have several, but this is the most graphic one. I'm gonna fade the turn back on the real estate map from the assessor's office, and then we'll fade that down, and you can sort of see what the relationship, probably is in here. So this is my take on this stuff. I'm going to fade my stuff back. Whoops. My interpretations back, and then let's look at. Oops, I have to bring it all the way back. And then let's look at some of the pictures. Lumberyard. Let's look at this one. All right, this one's. We've got a couple of pictures from the hill here, and they're critically important for understanding this. Notice we've got what looks like a main, and then maybe a branch branching off, and then another little branch branching off. You can't really see railroad tracks, but the flume's pretty distinctive. So I figured they were about here. If you look at, the various stuff. Remember, the photographer had a different lens than we do. This is another good one. Shows us something similar, but from a slightly different angle. And then we have other, well-known views. Boy, this is going to be a problem. There we go. That's not the one. We have other well-known views like this one that tell us really important things. We can see there's Peavine, and you can see this is a line just to its left. So all of that stuff helps me draw this. I've got these scratches on the ground, and it also helps me understand where the photographer probably was. You notice this stretch of the alignment is pointing just to the left of Peavine. So all of that stuff let me sort of put this together and reconstruct, hopefully fairly well, what this flume probably did. In here again, I know nothing except I know that we have to connect this area to this area that's a little better understood at a minimum grade of 0.5%. So, you know, that's what this is. You get out your calculator and you make measurements, and you can check that in the DEM, and again, we get, you know, this in here. Remember, there's no going back uphill. It won't work. And so that is what I pretty much have at this time. The way this will proceed, I want to tell you, to me, one of the most important things is to locate all the photographs that are known, and I think that's a realistic project, all the known photographs of this infrastructure. And then we need to get something that I have not seen in any published source, which is proper citation archival information to the extent that we can for each of these items. So we know, you know, really, so I can direct you to the real source, as opposed to, you know, just grabbing stuff as it floats by, and repeating, I guess, what, I don't know, incomplete information. So hopefully get more information about each one of these, and then be sure that we've got them all, and then reiterate this exercise with all the pictures, and see if that can get us a little further, refine this a little more. The other thing that I think is potentially doable and would be really useful and important is to get out there in the field, and I think that requires making friends or acquaintances with certain people, because much of this is now on private property. The third thing is that I suspect that Nevada, that NDOT has information that somewhere that might be useful to refining this a little bit. And that is, that's it. Thank you guys so very much. Son? Any kind of questions, and also, you know, this is a thing I want to continue to develop, so if anybody has stuff to add.
Mic's not on. It's on, but you gotta hold it real close.
Okay, how about now?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Tell you what, go ahead.
Yeah, you showed that lumber yard and everything else. Where is that in relation today to Casino Fandango, let's say? You have the museum here, and then you have Casino Fandango, and then it levels off toward where Taco Bell is and Wendy's, and then you get to Spooner Junction, so to speak, where it comes down.
I think I can give you I've got the machine going with the file. We can I'm glad to take a closer look, but I think the answer is possibly sort of through it and on top of it.
Hold the mic close, right up your mouth.
Okay, cool. How about this?
Yeah.
All right. I think the answer is possibly sort of through it and right on top of it. I've got the file and the machine back there. We could check and get a very detailed, specific, and probably reliable answer. So we can look, but I think sort of through it, you know, much bigger than it, but all around it, I think, if I understand. Go ahead.
When they cut the current highway there, all the way down the hill, did they find any remnants of the UFO?
The answer is, I do not know, and that's an important question that I am, you know, I'm keeping a big list. That's the kind of thing, a lot of projects now will have an archaeologist and an archaeological requirement. And so such records will be kept, and if they were kept, the next question is laying hands on them, which can be, in many kinds of institutions, that can be a significant, complex problem.
if they exist, even if they're nominally available, it can be hard to actually find them. But it may be, and I wish I could answer your question, but the answer is, I hope, and I hope the same thing up at Summit, that when digging was done beforehand, that there was a requirement for archaeology, and I don't know at this time. So,
Also, was Yarrington involved in buying that big tract of land on the lake?
I believe the answer is that it looks to me, there were many maps, unfortunately I didn't have time to show you, and it looks like there was an interrelated network of owners in various places. And I think the answer is at least partly. So we hear about a 50,000 acre tract, or we hear about 50,000 acres worth of property. And I believe a couple of things about that, which I don't know yet, but I think that was like a snapshot, but at any given moment, I don't know if that was a total max or if that was like a snapshot at a typical average moment. Those could be really different numbers, those two concepts. But I think there were many overlapping, sort of interrelated entities owning, and there were also, there were two issues. It looks like there were leases, there was land taken from, some looks like it was on Central Pacific land grant, others were purchased from the public domain, and then others, it looks like were leased, for stumpage, but were continued to be owned possibly federally. And it looks like the answer to that question is very complex, and that's actually almost if you wanted to write a real scholarly history of this corporation, that actually is the topic, that and the money. But it's a big job. Go ahead.
Do you know if the lake level is different today than it was back then?
I believe that in conversation and also from certain historical sources, it looks like the lake level, the average lake level was raised. It's also known to be variable. It was raised artificially at a certain point. And I believe that the question of how that affects the location of the shoreline, I have aerial images from Wendell that I did not show you, that they show expert assessments of where things are. And locating the shoreline is really important, and if it's very shallow, that will change a lot with a small vertical change. So that's an important question that I can't answer well now. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I missed the beginning. Is this all in Google Earth?
I did this all on Google Earth, and part of the reason for that is because potentially there's one piece of this that I don't, at this time, I don't want to distribute to everyone. And that's the images, because I don't have rights really to publish many of those, or well, any of those at this point. So I don't want to give you the place marks that send a little radio signal out to get the images from the server, because then I'd be publishing. But the rest of it, I want people to have and be able to edit freely. So, and something free that's also easy to figure out. So Google Earth, yes.
Okay, I asked that question because this kind of work is just incredibly important. And unfortunately, Stanford, the Spatial History Center, gave a talk at the Southern Pacific Historical and Technical Society Conference, I'm going to say about 7 years ago,
Okay.
where they were soliciting the public to crowdsource this kind of placement of the image on the spot. And that project is completely gone as far as I can I was just Googling it. It doesn't seem, it's vaporware, it's not there anymore. But when folks are doing this kind of work, it's just incredibly important. And I'm, as a retired librarian who used to kind of be involved in some of this stuff, I'm just trying to conceptually figure out how to get all of this time and energy solidified rather than be individual projects. I'm talking out loud here, but I'm trying to address all of you to understand that you know, in the long run, it really does need to be a giant crowdsourcing project for the whole world to be contributing to this kind of stuff, and that it never go away.
Yeah, one of, and future-proofing the thing, is a real problem. That's actually one of the reasons I chose Google Earth, because the KMZ file is a file that if Google yanks Google Earth away, which could happen, they're about to get regulated maybe, they might retaliate by making things go away. This is a standard interchange file format in the GIS industry, so any GIS software will run this well and edit it well. But that doesn't truly answer future-proofing. This information can be sent to a printer so that even in the whatever, you know, it can be turned into something solid that is not electronic. The real potential value, I think, ultimately of georeferencing the images, besides the fact that it lets us sort of understand well where they are and build the model accurately and well, because that's really the only data we have at this point, is that the file can be arranged in a way such that essentially we could have an index of the pictures related to places. And that can be, you know, turned into a PDF and printed as well, so that you have, you know, and held at an institution, so you have less of a rights problem that I would have if I just started giving this away on the internet. Like, I'm going to give the whole thing away, just not the pictures, because you'll find people are touchy about their pictures. Yeah, but these images are reproduced. Like the image itself is probably all these images are in the public domain, but if I like make a painting of, you know, or take a picture or make an image or whatever, that's mine. You know what I'm saying? And because of how I got them.
There may be some permanent URLs in the Digital Public Library of America that you might be able to point to.
Right.
I'll give that some thought.
That's a big task. I discovered when I tried to chase down even like some of the simple ones, the Carlton Watkins pictures, for example, are at this point, it looks like many or all, or many of his glass plates were destroyed. So the question, so the images are known from prints. So the question of even what is the authoritative one becomes a very complicated sort of intellectual exercise. Anyone else? Cool. Thank you.